Alright, the last time I did this type of video, there wasn't any gameplay to watch, so I've thrown on this random puppy pack run in the background. It doesn't have anything to do with the actual list itself. I've just put it there in case you want to zone out and watch some sap instead of listening to me drone on about these pet designs. But with that said, we're starting at number 10 with the manatee. Now, kind of spoilers for the rest of the list, I'm not going to have any more scaling pets. I think maybe that was obvious if you've watched enough of this channel. Manatee is kind of an exception though. It's very unique. It's not quite the only pet that hurts itself in the shop. We do have yak as well. But the fact that you have to make a sacrifice in order to actually get the scaling in the first place, it makes it so much more interesting. And you're always trying to make the decision, should you keep the manatee for longer and risk it fainting itself? Or do you sell it off quickly and recover some gold? So manatee, by far the most interesting scaler in the game. Maybe you could argue Komodo is as well, but I'm going with manatee for number 10. Next up is orca. Not one of my personal favorites, however I do think it's a great design. The fact that every time there's an update to the game, the orca kind of patches itself, because it will automatically include new faint pets in its list of possible summons. And that kind of helps breathe new life into Star Pack, because now you have access to a whole bunch of other faint units that you can get using Mantis. I think it's also just generally a crowd-pleasing kind of pet where you can get really unusual combinations of summons that can turn the tide of battles. Of course, it does make it annoying when you face an opposing orca that generates eagle, that generates stork, but still a very creative ability design, and I think it's worthy of a place in the top 10. And at number 8, we've got Hedgehog, a Pack 1 classic. This just edged out a couple of other pets. I originally had Wombat here and then ended up changing it. I'm sure you can understand, Rev. And then also Badger, I suppose, but I think when you consider custom packs as well, Badger has fewer synergies than Hedgehog. It's far less likely that you're going to come up against the Badger team in custom packs for good reason. But the idea of hurting your own team, but it actually turns out to be beneficial, I think that's very appealing to me. And it's hard to argue that playing Hedgehog isn't fun when you see an entire team of 50-50s getting destroyed by Toad and Blowfish or something like that. And at number 7, we've got one of the pets that was completely redesigned for Puppy Pack, and that is the mole. I kind of missed the old version of it, even though it was pretty dull. It was just so weak for a tier 4, it was kind of funny. But the new version has so many unique things you can do with it. I think maybe it suffers slightly from the fact that there aren't that many pets designed to work specifically with it other than the beluga sturgeon. I guess you could maybe argue beetle as well, but I think you're probably getting rid of beetle very, very quickly at the beginning of Puppy Pack. So maybe that's something that they could improve in the future, but you can make some crazy stuff with it in customs as it is. And at number 6, we have probably one of my least bought pets in the game, and that is the emu. When they released Golden Pack, they did kind of make an effort to flesh out the push archetype a bit. So we've got Doorhead Ant and Emu and Onion as well. Although maybe it's not immediately obvious that all of those are push effects. But besides the obvious stuff like Muskox and Cobra and Snake, having the emu constantly kick stuff in front of it, you can also make some wild stuff work with Sabertooth and Falcon, where the emu keeps regenerating the health of the summoning unit. It's maybe a little bit difficult to make work, but I think that plays into the creativity part of it, and also the fact that it becomes very rewarding when you do get the emu build to work. And kicking off the top 5, we have Anglerfish, probably not a surprise to anyone really. It's completely revitalized one of the hidden game modes, which is the play it against all packs. No one was really using that at all, but now there's a reason to use it, at least when you're playing Puppy Pack. Although coincidentally, this game in the background doesn't have it turned on. I'm not sure why that is. We actually recently had another draft recording session, and we added Anglerfish to the base pack because it's just so fun to steal stuff that your opponent drafted. I think an incredible idea, and once you see that ability, it's kind of crazy to think that it hasn't already been in the game for all this time. Maybe they can think about doing something similar in the future where you can steal perks from opposing teams. And at number 4, we have Seagull, probably an obvious pick, but it has to be in there. It's kind of like a box of tricks for anyone who's trying to make unusual builds work in custom packs. I think I used it recently in one of the mole videos where it passed Onion to the mole. A lot of the time, these builds are kind of rickety, and they can't really survive snipes or weakness, but that makes them all the more satisfying to get them working. And for sure the seagull is fun, at least even on just a base level. If you think about videos where people have seagull giving mushroom to octopus over and over again. But I also like abilities that work in both the shop and the battle. So the seagull can dish out perks in the battle, but it can also let you get them for free in the shop if you time your buy sells correctly. So it really works on both sides of the coin. And entering the top 3, we have Whale, another Pack 1 classic. Although I feel like it's a little bit underrepresented in Pack 1. You usually just see people playing deer, whale, turkey, or something kind of pedestrian like that. There are interesting things you can do with it in Pack 1, but I think it flourishes better in customs, where there are things like chicken. There are obviously so many more faint pets if you have all packs available. But even just in Pack 1, I love trying to get some of the unusual builds like tiger plus whale working, where it swallows 2 pets in front. Again, it's much like hedgehog and emu and mole, where it's a little bit awkward, but as a result it becomes more rewarding, and you really have to think more about your placement and how you're going to structure your team. And skyrocketing up the charts, we have Egyptian vulture at number 2. Probably one of the worst pets in the game in the previous version, but the simple change to making it work when it knocks something out but also faints at the same time made a huge difference and kind of opened the door to lots of different builds. There are so many different faint pets in the game that pairing them all with the Egyptian vulture creates a lot of different builds. I think that's generally a good template for designing an ability. The fact that it requires another pet to actually do anything, because by itself it does nothing. So Egyptian vulture, big winner of the update and worthy second place. And I think maybe this was exactly the same as last time I did one of these lists. I'm going for a rat as number 1. And I've mentioned it many times in the past how it's such a great design. It introduces so many different synergies at the beginning of Turtle Pack, but it's also just not very good. So that means it's also rewarding, and it can be very fun when you get a build going and you know that you've kind of outplayed your opponent rather than just winning purely by the strength of an ability on its own. So Rat, for sure, for me, is the best design in the entire game. It did take them a few iterations to get to the final version of Rat. It used to be pretty useless before. So there we go, that's my list. Let me know in the comments what your top 10 best ability designs in the game would be. And remember, I'm not talking about the strongest abilities, of course. I think that's obvious from this list. And also let me know if there are any categories of top 10s that you think I should try. I do have some in mind already, but maybe there are some suggestions that would be better. And in the background, we win with a 3 squad in Pack 2.